PlayStation 2, then odds are you have one of these, the Sony PlayStation 2 DualShock 2 video game controller, one of the greatest controllers ever made. Let's take a look at this thing because that's what we do here on Classic Game Room. Unlike the PlayStation 3 controller, the PlayStation 2 controller requires a wire and a plug. This plug's been fairly standard since the PlayStation 1 days. I've always liked it. I thought it was very easy to use, very easy to plug into the console. It says Sony, just in case you forgot who made it. So we'll take this and plug it in here. The front of the PlayStation 2 is always a little confusing with the memory card slots and the controller port underneath it, but they gave you a lot of wire with the PlayStation 2 controller, which was excellent. In fact, at the time, I don't think I'd ever seen any controller give you this much wire. I mean, I grew up with the Atari 2600 where they gave you, I don't know, like that much. So you had to sit right next to the Atari, but with this thing you could sit halfway across the room. You could get extension cables for the wire. It's all very well designed, and as many of us know, it's easy to play for hours and hours on end. Take a look here at where this plugs into the front of the original PlayStation 2, right below the memory card slot. It's very simple, easy to use, and unlike the Dreamcast, you can only use two controllers at once, unless you buy the multi-tap, which then allows you to use four. Now this controller is referred to as the DualShock 2 controller, inferring that there was a DualShock 1, which I had for the PlayStation 1. And when that came out, it was pretty revolutionary because the original PlayStation 1 controller just had a digital pad and the buttons here, and it was a pretty good controller. But with the DualShock, they brought out these things, and it rumbled. So it made playing games like Gran Turismo a whole lot better because you could have a little more variable control over how you were driving your car or flying your spaceship or whatever game you were playing. So it was pretty awesome. It had a little button that you'd push for analog and it would light up. Really like the DualShock controllers, and I'm glad that they kept that controller design for the DualShock 2. And as I said in my review of the PlayStation 3 controller, which I'm holding here, which is wireless, the simple Sony PlayStation controller design is so effective and so well loved that they just kept it for the PlayStation 3. And you can see that they've made almost no changes from the PlayStation 2 controller to the PlayStation 3 controller. And in fact, I think they actually made it worse. The worst thing they could have done is to take these fantastic L2 and R2 buttons and turn them into triggers, which is what they did on the PlayStation 3 controller. I really like them just as simple buttons, and it just works much better at like this. Now on the PlayStation 3 controller, you can see they made them triggers, which are slippery and difficult to use, and I don't like them at all. Now they're not horrible, it's not like this is a bad controller, far from it, but not as good as just having simple buttons. And of course, we see the wire coming out of the front of the PlayStation 2 controller, and the PlayStation 3 has the little charging slot there. Also, it says PlayStation there. PlayStation 3, you just get the little button there that you push to turn on the unit. They've also made a slight design change. This is the PlayStation 2 controller, and then the PlayStation 3 controller. You can see they've removed those little design cues or ridges or whatever you want to call those things. And as always, in traditional Sony PlayStation controller fashion, it's just very streamlined, very easy to use, very solid and well built. This is an excellent controller. I have about 3 of them that I've collected throughout the years. And I need to pick up my original DualShock controller again, the gray one. This came in gray just like the original PlayStation 1 controller, and compare that one. But it's, as far as I remember, it's identical except for the fact that this one's black and the original DualShock 1 was gray. It's an awesome controller.